I would like you to start thinking about your next move in life. As you can see, we have these two guiding principles here: courage and tact. These are going to help you break it down and figure it out. And we're also going to draw two cards. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. The two guiding principles that you're seeing here, courage and tact, I guess it's tempting to think about them as opposites, but that's not really what I meant when I wanted to include them in this reading. What I really mean is that when you think about your next move, you can think about it in different ways, and there are different aspects of that next step that you can think about. So now, if you feel like you resonate with the approach of courage more, then you can just watch the first part of the video with the first card, or you can also only watch the second card and the second part. But I would recommend that you take a little bit of time before we start the reading to see how these two principles relate to your next life decision. So actually, the very first part is trying to identify what your next move in life is, and to make it less daunting. You don't necessarily have to think about ginormous, incredibly profound new goals. You can just think about the next thing that makes sense in your life, however small, however banal maybe it seems. We're all at different stages in our lives, and sometimes getting through the day is the only next step that you can focus on, and that's okay. So if that's what you would like to choose for us to work with today, that's okay too. But this can relate to any other step that you're taking in your life. Perhaps you're making a move. Perhaps you're going back to school. Perhaps you're taking your relationship to the next level, or you're learning something new. Perhaps you're changing jobs. It could be a myriad of different things. But as human beings, we're always thinking about that next big thing. So, with courage, you have the approach of breaking the pattern. So, what aspect of your next step is disruptive? What parts of it are going to force you out of your comfort zone? What parts of it are giving you fear? So with courage, we're thinking about this aspect, and the card is going to provide you with some guidance in this area. Okay. The second word, the second guiding principle, is tact. Now, this is the aspect of your next step that potentially involves other people. So I would like you now to think about how your decision, how your next step is relating to whether it's going to have any effect on other people. And so then we're going to work with the idea of tact and how to do things with caution without causing any unnecessary pain to yourself or to others. Take a deep breath in. Fill your lungs. Allow this cleansing breath to bring you back into the moment, the present moment. And then let it go slowly. So if you can, try to consciously slow down your breath. You can let this go. After a while, it's going to become automatic, but for the first couple of breaths, try to pay attention to this. So we have the first card. And then the second one. So guidance on these two aspects. And again, if you want to only observe and examine one aspect of your next move, you can certainly just watch the first or the second half of the video. It's up to you. But my observation is that normally decisions require awareness of both of these aspects. Okay. So, let's see what your guidance is for courage. And here we have the major arcana card of the devil. This is the devil in the traditional tarot. And since I'm using the Osho Zen Tarot cards, this is called something different. And it has kind of a different connotation and interpretation in this deck. It's also called conditioning. So that's exciting. Okay. So we're going to talk about this in a minute. Let's now see the tact aspect. And here we have the Three of Swords as your guidance. Okay. So both of these cards are very contentious and tumultuous energies. They represent darkness. They represent a struggle. But they also represent the opportunities that are opening up when you commit. So let's see the first card regarding courage. So as you can see, conditioning is about the training that you have received, the program, the subconscious program that is running in your mind, which is the result of your upbringing, of early childhood memories, of environmental effects from your school years, from your family, from society, These are imprints that you are still carrying within yourself and that are to an extent defining you. Now, what this card is trying to say is that you can be conditioned to be something that you're not. And you can even be fooled into thinking that you are what you're really not. If done with a sufficient amount of repetition and force and with perhaps with traumatic injury connected with it, then your conditioned state is going to very strongly resemble your authentic self, and you're going to fall for it. You're going to believe that, for example, if you've been told your entire life that you are lazy or dumb or that you never you will never amount to anything. This is something that used to be a very commonly used device in child rearing techniques back in the 80s, for example, the 80s and 90s when I was growing up in Central Europe. This was the thing. Everybody received basically the same kind of training, a training to feel bad about yourself. And so, in your case, regarding your next step, the real courage is to question those kinds of programs, to truly and meticulously investigate the origins of these beliefs about yourself, to really go deep with the idea that it might not be true at all what you believe to be true about yourself. And this could include, sometimes this can include positive things as well. It's more rare, but it can happen. Let's say, or not positive, but I mean not necessarily negative things only. So for example, if you were growing up in a family where there were lots of lawyers, let's say, everybody in the family chose the same profession, and they would communicate to you that you, because you're smart, because you're good with analysis, because you're tough and whatever, and you're rational and detached, like all the other members of the family, you need to choose this profession as well. But it can very well be that although being confident and having this rational thinking mind and all that, it might sound like it's a positive thing, but if it's not generally true for you, perhaps you're an artistic spirit, even if it's a positive thing, it's been kind of forced onto you as an idea of who you are. And you can slowly, with your bravery and your resistance, you can start to reject those ideas. So real courage in your situation is learning to reject what is not you and standing by the version of yourself that requires the least effort. I think this is something very important to say, because often we are conditioned to go above and beyond to appear a certain way to our environment. That's what is expected of us. That's what we are trained to do. That's what we've been programmed to do. But when you're being your authentic self, what happens is you no longer have to suffer so much. You no longer have to strain yourself to appear to be a triangle when you're a circle. You no longer have to be alert and aware and on guard every second of every minute. You can let go. And that requires courage. That actually requires a lot of courage. So that's the direction that you need to go to with this. And when it comes to tact, it's interesting because we have the card of isolation, the Three of Swords in the traditional tarot. So there's a sense of paralysis here and a deep sense of being hurt and wronged. That's what the Three of Swords is about. So this card is being very firm and very kind of tough, in the sense that it's saying that ultimately we're all on our own. Ultimately, when it comes to our feelings and resolving the issues that we're facing, especially issues of injury to your self-confidence, because the Three of Swords is mostly about damage to the ego that happens as a result of other people's intrusive presence or their actions. And so it's something that doesn't cut too deep, but it has the potential to awaken some dormant insecurities within us. So ultimately, one thing that you need to remember is that everybody is responsible for their own feelings. What you do or do not do cannot, after a certain point, be controlled to fit and to appease someone else's insecurities. And vice versa, you cannot expect other people to tiptoe around your fragility or your weaknesses, whatever they are. It's kind of a very cruel and heartless place that the Three of Swords represents, where there's no mercy, there's no connection, there's no empathy, and you don't have to be in that place. But no one can remove you from there, and you cannot remove anybody from there. It's something that is self-initiated. It originates from the self. Once the process has already started, of course, you can help out and other people can help you. But when you are in that state of frozenness, then there's no getting through to you, and there's no getting through to another person who is frozen like that. So tact has its limits. That's what this card is saying. You can obviously try your best to be careful not to hurt other people, but in this case, you might ruffle some feathers with your decision, and it's okay. This card wants you to be okay with that, and also to accept that it can happen to you as well in the process, that you get to those desolate, isolated places in your consciousness, and that it's fine. You can always move on from there. You can stay a little bit, experience how cold it is, how unforgiving it is to be in that mindset. And eventually you can be going with the flow, and you can go someplace else. And the same is true for other people. They don't have to live their life in that state. They can find ways out of there. But it's not your responsibility to make sure that no one is ever stepped on, so to say. Especially if it comes to authenticity. I think what's happening here has a lot to do with unleashing and recognizing the authentic self. And so the deepest truth is that your authentic self can hurt other people if those other people are deeply insecure. But it's not your responsibility to withhold your true self, to control it, to mold it to someone else's expectation in order to protect them from this state. That's not going to fly, because it's impossible to do. It's impossible to tiptoe around this Three of Swords state of mind when someone is kind of gravitating towards that experience. It almost doesn't even matter what you do. They're going to end up there anyway. So within good reason, within certain limitations, you can try to be tactful, but in this situation, in this particular situation, tact is overrated. So I hope that you enjoy this reading. Let me know in the comments what your next big step is and how you liked this reading. See you next time.